Welcome back to the channel. Today we're talking about the Fantom mixed in with the MPC and Ableton Live, which is hooked up on the computer behind me. So the Fantom is acting as a Ableton Live controller, DAW controller, and it's producing sounds, and it's a MIDI controller for the MPC, which is in hardware mode, standalone hardware mode. So interesting kind of hybrid setup going on here that I honestly have not tried yet until recently. The past video I did on the Fantom, I had some recommendations of experimenting with the Fantom and the MPC, and yeah, that's a killer combo, really like it. And then one step further, using Ableton Live as the digital mixer to mix everything, apply effects and all that, and ultimately use that as the recorder for when I want to finish a project and make an actual release with it. So this video is going to be talking about this setup and this process. So let's get to it. So we need to talk about some routing situations here. So again, the MPC is the main brain of the MIDI data that's controlling everything. I have a USB hub that is hooked directly to the MPC One that is then controlling all the instruments except for the Fantom. The Fantom USB is hooked to the computer, so I can use the Ableton Live DAW controlling capabilities right there. So how do I get the MIDI? I just use the regular MIDI ports out of the MPC One, the in and outs, and into the MIDI ports of the Fantom, and that gets me basic MIDI control and also being able to access the individual channels on the Fantom. Additionally, I have the main outs, sub outs, and the sub out 2 of the Fantom hooked up into my DAW, so I can actually have 3 separate sounds from the Fantom being controlled and split out inside of Ableton Live. So for instance, channel 1 on the Fantom is currently a piano. Channel 2 is an analog atmosphere patch. And channel 3 is a JD800 patch. All 3 of those patches are going into their own Ableton Live channels, which is nice for mixing and all that. Now I could take the rest of the channels, like 4, 5, 6, 7 and all that, and put them into one of those outputs, like the main output. But for now, because I've got a bunch of different pieces of gear hooked up, I don't think I need the additional stuff. So it's nice to just keep those separate at the moment. Now what I do have on this keyboard is channel 8 is acting as an external controller. So I basically set it up that whenever I'm on channel 8, it's just sending MIDI, and the MPC One is listening to that MIDI. So for instance, if I go say mono poly, which is up here, I can now play the mono poly. Or the deep mind, which is up here. We got the cobalt. Now that is some additional reverb that's happening inside of Ableton, and that's what's nice about the setup. I can build my own effects chains inside the DAW, but still have my own hands-on control of the hardware instruments to be able to do performances with it. But if you notice, this patch is a bit on the quiet side. Let's say I want to adjust that. Do I have to get up and go to the computer? All I have to do is hit DAW control, and then I scoot on over to the cobalt channel, and then I can just crank up the volume. Now, admittedly, the DAW control in this that I'm using is rudimentary. I'm basically just using volume control. If I need to solo something or mute something, I can do it in here for the audio patch type of stuff, which is definitely okay because the bulk of the composing is happening on the MPC. But again, it's really nice to be able to just adjust those volumes like that, or the panning, just immediately from here without having to hop up and adjust those things. So in addition to the MIDI on the MPC, I'm also using it for drums and percussion. So if there's any kind of like rhythm track that I need, it's going to be dedicated to the MPC outputs right there, and those are also obviously going inside of Ableton. For instance. Now currently this is kind of wobbly, which is unfortunate, but no setup is perfect. So I think what I'll do, I'll make 4 bars and I will do some hi-hats real quick, just to have something. Let's get some 16th as well. Make another track, do the kick and snare. Adjust the strength down, add a bit of swing. Let's get a bass. Maybe the Micro Freak will be the bass. Let's hear the mini log. It's currently a pad patch. Let's find something else. Kind of like this. Let's do it. So the mini log is a bit hot. I want to turn that down. Go to track, mini log, turn it down. Yeah, let's see, let's go to the Fantom now. Let's go maybe track 3 on the Fantom. Now, currently with this setup, if I have the MIDI monitoring off, it doesn't seem to work correctly. And maybe that's something to do with the MIDI ports on here instead of the USB. When it's on USB, it works fine, but not when it's on the MIDI ports. So when I'm doing this, sometimes better to just turn off the MIDI port and then go to the track in the Fantom. I can just play the track directly and it will still record MIDI data onto the MPC. So yeah, let's find something with this. Let's see, what do we got? Yeah, maybe something even more hauntish. That's kind of cool. Yeah. See that? I'm going to take timing correction completely off. I'm also going to double the length of the sequence so I have more room to work with here. I'm going to put the MIDI port back to MPC, so it's currently going back into the Fantom. Now, I'm going to go back to the DAW here, the DAW control. And I know this was going out Fantom sub out 2. I'm going to increase this. Just want to hear more of it. Maybe a little too loud. Cool. On to track 2 of the Fantom, which was Analog Atmosphere. I'm gonna come back to that one actually. Let's go to maybe like the Cobalt or Argon. Yeah, the Argon here. Patch is currently broken CS. Let's see what we can do. Turn that down a bit. Argon goes down. Okay, how about the Cobalt? Could be just a simple like chord like that. It's kind of a vibe. Could do something with the peak as well. I'm gonna find a patch on the peak. Again, I have a reverb in Ableton Live that's saucing this up. So for this, we're gonna double the sequence length even more. So we're gonna go 16 bars total because I like to have, again, just a little more interest in my sequences. Now let's go back to track 2 of the Fantom, that analog atmosphere. Yeah. This could honestly just be like an improv type of thing. While the track plays. Let's go track mute. Let's get rid of the drums and just start playing. So the whole time I could be recording this into the linear sequencer, and then I'd have something that I could use as like a jam to mix. So I think this is a really fun way to work personally. And again, the Fantom is just a really awesome MIDI keyboard. So being able to control the MPC and all the gear that I have hooked up to it at the same time is just really cool. Again, the MPC One is in standalone mode. It's not hooked up to the PC, and the USB hub is connecting all of the gear that's being sequenced via MIDI. The audio output, on the other hand, of all this stuff is going into my DAW, and that is a MOTU 828ES plus some additional stuff via AVB networking to allow me to have like a 40+ track count both in and out. So I do have a very high track count for my system, and that allows me to have a bunch of things plugged in at any given time and not have to do a bunch of patching, even though I have a big patch bay off to my side, which I still use for a bunch of analog gear. But that's for another video if you're curious about that. If you've got any questions, definitely drop them below. I will try my best to answer them to the best of my knowledge. If you're curious about any of this gear, I will have all the links below. They will be affiliate links, which means that we do get a cut at no additional charge to you. So if you do plan on picking up any gear and you use our links below, it helps out the channel. But yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. Really appreciate it. And I'll see you next time for another one. Peace.